Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Stephen Camarota, and I am Director of Research at the Center for Immigration Studies, and I want to thank you for inviting me to testify on the very important issue of illegal immigration's impact on the U.S. workforce. Now, due in part to the enormous influx at the southern border, we estimate that the illegal immigrant population living in the United States has grown to 12.6 million by May of this year, an increase of 2.4 million just since January of 2021, so less than 2.5 years. There are now likely 9 million illegal immigrants in the U.S. workforce. Now, traditionally, one of the most important reasons to limit immigration and then enforce those limits had always been to protect American workers. In terms of the impact on the labor force, illegal immigration primarily adds lower skilled labor to the U.S. 7 out of 10 illegal immigrants are thought to have no education beyond high school, for example. As a result, they mainly compete with less educated U.S.-born and legal immigrants in jobs such as construction, building, cleaning and maintenance, groundskeeping, retail sales, food service, and food processing. There is good evidence that immigration does reduce the wages and employment of some U.S.-born workers, though it's difficult to distinguish the impact of illegal immigration from immigration overall. A 2007 comprehensive report by the National Academy of Sciences cited over a dozen studies showing a negative impact on American workers from immigration, mainly again on the less educated. Now, given their education level and concentration across occupations, it's important to note most Americans are not in competition with illegal immigrants for jobs. But those that are tend to be the poorest and least educated. We estimate that in the 24 occupations where illegal immigrants are most concentrated, there are about 5.7 million U.S.-born workers still employed, and they're mostly people with modest levels of education. Now, by increasing the supply of workers and lowering wages, immigration can increase profits for employers or lower prices for consumers. But there's no free lunch here. These benefits require some Americans, typically the poorest at the bottom end of the labor force, to lose out. There has been a well-documented long-term stagnation, or even in some cases outright decline in wages for the less educated, which by itself is problematic. Moreover, low wages is one of the reasons for the extremely troubling decades-long deterioration in labor force participation, which measures the share of working-age people who are either working or at least looking for work. There are now 44 million working-age U.S.-born Americans not in the labor force, about 10 million more than in 2000. These individuals do not show up as unemployed because they're not actively looking for work. You have to look for work in the last 4 weeks. If the participation rate overall of the U.S.-born would just return, say, to the level in 2000, it would add 6 million workers to the U.S. workforce. Even among prime age U.S.-born men, 25 to 54, the group most likely to work, the share in the labor force, if they don't have, say, any education beyond high school, has declined from 96% in 1960 to 82% now. A large body of research shows the decline has enormous negative consequences for society, including contributing to crime, drug overdose, social isolation, welfare dependency, and suicide. Illegal immigration is not the only reason for this decline in work. However, using immigration to keep down wages makes work less attractive. Further, filling jobs with immigrants, many of whom are illegal, has allowed policymakers to ignore the huge decline in labor force participation, even though it's no secret. There's books written on it. The Obama White House wrote about it. Either we undertake the difficult, and it will be difficult, policy and social reforms necessary to address the disastrous decline in labor force participation, or we continue to allow in ever more immigrants and then somehow come up with various Band-Aids to deal with all the social pathologies that come from having so many working-age people not working. Thank you.